And welcome back everyone to yet another Diablo 4 build video, and today we have my Sub-Zero Rogue build, and as you can imagine it's going to be a Frost build. So a couple notes I wanted to go over before we get into everything is this is an incredibly well-rounded build as far as I'm concerned. We have a ton of survivability, we have a ton of healing, we have a ton of damage, we have a ton of crowd control, and we have a lot of speed. So to move ourselves into it, we're going to first talk about our specialization. We take combo points. Your basic skills now generate combo points. Core skills consume combo points for additional effects. And our core skill is going to be Flurry. We're not we got a lot of attack speed, so to jump into it, we got Puncture. Throw blades a short distance, dealing 400 damage. Every third cast slows enemies by 20% for 2 seconds. Critical strikes will always slow. The slow is going to matter a lot because we get a lot of damage bonuses for crowd-controlled enemies. Gain 2 energy when Puncture damages a crowd-control enemy. It'll just help with our resource. Fundamental Puncture. Puncture now throws 3 blades in a spread, and each dealing 35% of its base damage. Hitting an enemy with at least 2 blades at once makes them vulnerable for 2 seconds, and that's the big one, because we want everything to be vulnerable as much as possible in this build. So like I said, we pick up Flurry, unleash a flurry of stabs and slashes, striking enemies in front of you 4 times, dealing a total of 1600 damage to each. Our combo points boosts that up to 2,814 damage, and we get a 45% attack speed bonus. Now, we want to be stacking as much attack speed on because we get a huge damage bonus from our 3rd point in combo. So going with this, we're going to be making enemies vulnerable and then getting the attack speed, and so it'll literally almost be like you're just spamming Flurry with how quickly our autos are coming out. We do take Enhanced Flurry. Each time Flurry damages a crowd-controlled or vulnerable enemy, you are healed for 1% of your maximum life up to 12% life per cast. Now you can see why we want everything to be vulnerable on top of just getting more damage out of them. Improve Flurry. If Flurry hits an enemy, it will make all enemies hit by the cast vulnerable for 3 seconds. So you auto, it'll make an enemy vulnerable, then you Flurry, everything's vulnerable, and then you Flurry again, you're getting a huge heal off of it as well. To talk about the passives we take over here, Sturdy, you gain 12% close damage reduction, that's really nice. Siphoning Strikes, you heal for 3% of your maximum life when you are critically strike a close enemy. We have a lot of crit chance in this build, and we're close to everything using Flurry, so this just stacks with our Enhanced Flurry, getting a ton of lifesteal. Stutter Step. Critically striking an enemy grants 15% movement speed for 4 seconds. That's just quality of life, it's not necessary. Down here we pick up Weapon Mastery, one of my favorite passives for this character. It's just so unique. Gain a bonus when attacking based on weapon type. Now, for this particular build, I would prefer to have the daggers, because you get that huge increase in damage to healthy enemies, and a lot of times you'll notice that we just flat out one-shot everything. We do have the swords, though, which is probably overall better, especially for bosses, because you get 9% increased damage just across the board. Now, the bow doesn't matter really, but you do want to have a bow because of our ultimate. It'll make it to where you get increased vulnerable damage, but honestly, we don't have any other attacks aside from our ultimate that use the bow. So over here we pick up cow traps. Leap backwards and throw cow traps on the ground, dealing a little bit of damage and slowing enemies by 50%, last 6 seconds. There's that slow again. We need as much CC as we can. Enemies take 3% increased damage from you each second they are in cow traps. I don't know how long cow traps last. Okay, it lasts 6 seconds, so 6 times 3, you get 18% increased damage for them on that 6 second. Methodical cow traps. Cow traps now deals cold damage to enemies and chills enemies for 25% per second. We want this because we get huge damage bonuses for having chilled enemies and frozen enemies. So having that is just a flat damage bonus. Now right here, the only reason we take Poison Trap, which I would much rather take one of these other abilities, is right here. Poison Trap has a 30% chance to reset your imbuement skills cooldown when activated. Like if one of these had that, then I would absolutely switch this out. But anywho, to get into it, we got place a trap that arms after 1 second, and it activates when an enemy moves within range, applying 6,588 poison damage over 9 seconds to enemies in that area. You can have 4 armed traps out at once. I rarely ever get that many out, but you know, that's how it goes. Enhanced Poison Traps is pretty nice. It does knock down enemies, so if you're fighting an elite, you can toss this down at their feet, knock them down, and then have a chance to reset your imbuement. So, next up we have Exploit. You deal 18% increased damage to healthy and injured enemies. Healthy have more than 80% of their life, injured have less than 35% of your life. So you're getting huge damage, and this helps out a lot because, like I said earlier, you're going to be one-shotting a lot of trash mobs, so this just helps ensure that all that shit dies on your first cast. Malice, you deal 9% increased damage to vulnerable enemies. We have so many ways to make enemies vulnerable that we're always getting that 9% damage increase. Down here we do take Cold Imbuement, obviously. Imbue your weapons with frigid energies. Your next 2 imbuable skills deal cold damage and chill enemies for 30% per hit. Enhanced Cold Imbuement. Lucky Hit. Cold imbued skills have up to a 30% chance to make enemies vulnerable for 3 seconds. Once again, just really nice to make everything vulnerable more often. Cold imbued skills deal 20% damage to crowd controlled enemies. Double this damage against frozen enemies. So that's 40% extra damage against frozen enemies. And we're not done yet, because right here you have deal 15% increased damage to chilled enemies. This bonus is increased to 30% against frozen enemies. So another 30% against frozen enemies. It just stacks insane burst damage on this build. And then of course we take Precision Imbuement. Imbued skills gain 9% increased critical strike chance. It's just really, really nice. Down here we do take Rain of Arrows. Arrows rain down over a large area 2 times, each wave dealing 3,825 damage. Believe it or not, I don't care about the damage. What I care about is right here. Imbuement skills effect applied to Rain of Arrows have 30% increased potency. So if you gather up a whole group of enemies and then ult whenever you're imbued, it will freeze everything, which gives you both of these absolutely massive damage bonuses right there. And on top of that, you have, if you cast this before you cast Flurry, you should still have 1 more stack of Cold Imbuement left over. So you'll have that, you get the cold damage bonus and the crit chance and all that good stuff on top of everything. We take Adrenaline Rush. While moving, you gain 5% increased energy regeneration. That's nice, but it's not super big. We get it to get down to Haste. While at or above 50% maximum energy, gain 15% increased movement speed. While below 50% maximum energy, gain 15% increased attack speed. So this is just really good for getting around. You move a lot faster, and then if you're not moving, you're attacking a lot faster. We pick up Trap Mastery. When Poison Trap or Dead Trap activate, and you gain 12% increased critical strike chance against vulnerable and crowd-controlled enemies for 4 seconds. Well, whenever we throw down our trap, we already make everything vulnerable, and it's all crowd-controlled, so we're getting huge fucking damage. Innervation. Up to a 10% chance to gain 8 energy. That's not super massive, but we do take it to get the Alchemist Fortune, and I would really like to put some more points into this. Whenever I finish up all my region bonuses, then I'll definitely max this out. Non-physical damage you deal has a 5% increased lucky hit chance. And right here we have a lucky hit on Victimize. Dealing direct damage to a vulnerable enemy has up to a 30% chance to cause an explosion, dealing 23% of the original damage to them and surrounding enemies. This is a huge damage bonus, even though it doesn't seem like it. Now, the explosion is kind of small, so you have to make sure everything is really tightly grouped up. And honestly, it might be better to run Death Trap, because this will suck enemies all together and then you can hit them with Victimize. But I figured I would leave this for a different build, especially being that we get way more bonuses out of using Rain of Arrows. So to jump into our aspects here, we're pretty stacked. I mean, as you can see, we got a ton of aspects. Before we talk about that, we're going to talk about our gems, though. I like to take emeralds in our weapons. You do get the 9% crit strike damage to vulnerable enemies. In your jewelry, I would much prefer to have diamonds in all of these. I don't know why I have freaking sapphires in them. And then for our armor, just to bolster our healing, we have skull gems. So, the most important imprint, obviously, for this entire build is Flurry damages enemies in a circle around you. You can get this with a higher percent damage increase. I am just running with the basic bitch imprint because I don't have a better one. But yeah, 360 degrees all around you is huge, and I can't even explain how much it helps this build. Next up, making an enemy vulnerable has up to a 30% chance to grant 3% increased critical strike chance for 3 seconds, up to 9%. So we have all kinds of ways to make enemies vulnerable, so our crit chance is just bolstering through the fucking roof. Basic skills gain 15% attack speed. Like I said, we want to be stacking as much attack speed as we can, because to get our full damage off of combo points, we have to auto 3 times in between each flurry. Caltrop also throws a cluster of exploding stun grenades that deals a little bit of damage and stuns enemies for 0.5 seconds. That's really nice for survivability. Whenever you go in, if you're fighting a couple of elites or something, you can just toss that out whenever they're about to smack the shit out of you, and it'll stun them out of it and all that stuff, and you get the damage bonuses from Caltrops. Up here is one of my favorite imprints to have, is explosions from the victimized key passive heal you for 96 life for each enemy, up to a maximum of 288 life. I usually have a massive trouble with fighting poison enemies that leave that poison pool of shit on the floor. We have so much fucking healing, and you'll see in the video here, we're maxed out poison to death, but we are just healing through all of it. It is insane. To jump over here on our crossbow, we put attacking enemies with a basic skill increases the damage of your next core skill by 20% up to 30%. We have to attack 3 times with a basic attack in between our flurries. So this just kind of guarantees that we're going to be getting 20% extra damage on our flurries. It's not usually mandatory, but I would say with how much this helps and how often we're doing it anyway, I would say that is mandatory. Next, dealing direct damage to vulnerable enemies has up to a 45% chance to daze them for 2 seconds. And we pair that with our chest piece here. Dealing direct damage to dazed enemies with an agility skill grants stealth for 4 seconds, breaking stealth with an attack grants you 15% control impaired duration reduction for 4 seconds. Good lord, that was a mouthful. Now, the only issue is, oh, where is it? Never mind, it's fine. So yeah, you can kind of pair those together and get the days and then the bonus off of the days just for a little bit of survivability. Right here, this is another mandatory one because we're doing this all the time anyway. You take 15% less damage from crowd-controlled enemies. When crowd-controlled enemy deals direct damage to you, gain 15% movement speed for 2 seconds. We have like 78 different ways to make enemies crowd-controlled, so this is just a massive survivability boost for us. Distant enemies have an 8% chance to be stunned for 2 seconds when they hit you. You deal 20% increased damage to stunned enemies. This is once again another survivability deal. If distant enemies can't hit us, then they can't fucking kill us. So it's kind of self-explanatory. This one isn't mandatory on a lot of other builds, but I'd say for this one it's absolutely it's mandatory for sure. You want this. This is probably the most important survivability skill on any of our aspects here. Becoming injured while crowd control grants you unstoppable for 4 seconds. Here's the deal, is we have a ton of survivability as long as we're attacking. Getting crowd controlled though, you'll get fucking 2-shot. So just have this on, that way you can get out of it. Like, for real, it's insane how it feels incredibly tanky until you're crowd controlled, and then you feel like a piece of paper. So with all of that out of the way, I guess we'll talk about Paragon board. Now obviously I'm only in the first one, but I did want to mention what you'll want to be going into. So over here we got the prime node for the extra damage. You do want to get your intelligence up, that way you get another 10% damage. And then over here we take skillful, 10% damage, and dexterity. Once again, you want more intelligence to get 10% more damage. Now the one that I really wanted to talk about here is the next board to move into for the early end game. The Eldritch Bounty board, I don't think this one's gonna be like too crazy. It sounds really good, but I haven't been able to test any of these, so this is all speculation on my end. When you attack with an imbued skill, you gain 20% resistance and 20% damage for that imbuement element for 6 seconds. Now I'm not sure, like, ice itself doesn't do any damage. It just crowd controls. So do you get any of this bonus for ice? Like I said, I haven't tested it, so I'm not sure if that's really the one that we would want to go with. Cruise strides, enemy affected by trust. Where is it? Here we go. Whenever you deal damage to vulnerable enemy, they take 1% increased damage from you for 6 seconds up to 15%. That one could be nice because we have so many different ways to make enemies vulnerable, and so that's one of the good ones. This one is probably the one that I would go with the most because our our combo points is probably like it's the most common used thing in this entire build. Your non-damage combo point bonuses are increased by 33% when you spend 3 combo points. So that means that we're getting an insane boost to our attack speed because it says your non-damage combo points. But if we go over here, close out of this, come on, and go over to our flurry, we're getting a 45% bonus attack speed. That will go up substantially from that, so probably be up almost to the 60s. So yeah, that is the entire build. I guess we'll go into our fashion because I'm really proud of this. I think it looks incredible. And it kind of pulls that Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat vibe. On our helmet, we're running Bone Weave, Runic Mail on our chest. We have gray on our helm, blue on our chest. We have blue Manifers, gray Primal Chassis, and blue Warlord Boots. And I think that this just looks so fucking clean. I'm not a huge fan of the gold on the boots, but it does at least match the gold on the chest piece under his little scarf here, so... yeah, I mean, it looks like a poncho to me, which is why I like it so much. It's not even a scarf. But yeah, that's the build. So if you liked, please, leave a like, subscribe, comment what you want to see next. I do plan on doing a toxic predator build next with the rogue. We'll see when that comes out. So yeah, just leave me anything that you want. I'm working on mage right now. He's almost up to level 50. I just got freaking druid up to level 50, so we're fixing to be pumping out a bunch of builds, all 1 to 50 builds, and for every character. And then my necromancer is almost up to level 70, so I'll be able to start putting up those updated builds for him. And that's basically how these videos are going to go. We got the 1 to 50 builds, then we have updated builds at level 70, and then once again we have absolute in-game builds for level 100. So leave a comment, tell me what you think, how you feeling, what you want to see, and otherwise get the fuck out of here. I'll see y'all later.